Sandra Lee built something most people never imagined possible. A dermatology practice in Southern California became a global brand. Millions of people who had never met her trusted her with their most personal insecurities, their skin, their scars, the things they hid from the world. She became Dr. Pimple Popper, a name that sounds simple but represents something far larger, a business empire built on authenticity, on showing people exactly what medicine looks like up close. Billions of views, a television show, a skincare line, an audience that spanned continents. And then, on what should have been an ordinary workday, everything she had built suddenly hung in the balance. How does a woman at the peak of her career, surrounded by cameras and colleagues, come within striking distance of losing it all without anyone in the room noticing? It was a regular shooting day at her clinic in Upland, California. Patients had traveled from across the country to be seen by her. The lights were set. The crew was in place, and Sandra Lee was doing what she always does, moving with calm efficiency through procedures, talking with patients, staying focused. She is known for that composure. Viewers have watched it for years. Nothing seems to rattle her. But that day, something changed inside her body. A wave of heat moved through her. Not the kind you brush off easily, but the kind that makes you pause and wonder. Her thoughts felt slower than usual. Something was off. She knew it. But she did what many driven, disciplined people do. She pushed through, finished the day, and told herself it was probably nothing serious. Maybe exhaustion. Maybe a hot flash. She was in her 50s. These things happen. But was she right? That evening, she went to her parents' house nearby. It should have been a quiet wind down after a long day, but her body wouldn't cooperate. She felt restless in a way she couldn't explain. Then her legs began sending sharp, shooting pain up through her. She tried to ignore it, tried to settle in, tried to convince herself that rest would fix whatever this was. Then she attempted to walk down a flight of stairs, and that's when she felt it clearly. Her balance was wrong. Her legs weren't responding the way they should. She made it through the night without sleeping, and by morning the fear she had been managing finally broke through. But what she saw when she looked at her left hand made the fear impossible to contain any longer. Her hand collapsed. No tremor, no cramp. It simply gave out on its own, without her asking it to, without warning. She tried to speak. The words that came out were slurred and confused, not the clear, confident language her patients and viewers had always known. And in that moment, the thought arrived with full clarity. Am I having a stroke? Now here is what makes this story cut deeper than a typical medical emergency. Sandra Lee is not just anyone facing a frightening set of symptoms. She is a physician. She has spent decades in medicine. She knows the warning signs of a stroke, the way most people know the back of their hand. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, sudden loss of balance. She had nearly all of them. And even knowing all of that, she almost did not go to the hospital. Why would a doctor who knows better hesitate in a moment like that? The answer is uncomfortable, but it is worth sitting with. For many people, and particularly for women, stroke symptoms do not always arrive in the way public health campaigns describe them. They can feel like fatigue. They can feel like overwork or hormonal shifts. They can feel like something minor, something explainable, something that will pass by morning. That is exactly how Sandra Lee experienced it at first. Gradual, easy to rationalize, almost convincing. But there was someone else in that house who saw it differently. Her father, himself a physician, looked at his daughter and recognized immediately what was happening. He did not hesitate. He told her to get to the emergency room without delay. And that instruction, from a father who trusted what he saw over what his daughter was telling herself, may have been the decision that preserved her life. But what the doctors found when she arrived confirmed that this was far more serious than even she had feared. The imaging came back. An ischemic stroke. A blood clot had cut off oxygen to a portion of her brain. In stroke medicine, time is the variable that determines everything. From the moment blood flow is interrupted, brain cells begin to die by the millions with each passing minute. There is no reversing that. There is no therapy that restores what is already gone. The damage is permanent, and Sandra Lee understood this with a precision that most patients never have, because she is a doctor, and she knew exactly what those images meant. She said it publicly and plainly. A part of my brain died. Those words carry enormous weight, But what makes them particularly sobering is what they meant for everything she had spent her career building. Her hands, her voice, her focus, her identity as a physician, all of it suddenly at risk at once. When you spend your life performing delicate procedures, the steadiness of your hands is not a minor thing. It is everything. And when your voice is the thread connecting you to millions of followers across every platform, the possibility that it might not come back the way it was is not just frightening. It is existential. Sandra Lee had built her entire public life around calm, precise, confident communication. And here she was in a hospital bed, uncertain whether her left hand would ever return to full function. Looking back, the signals had been there for years. High blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, the relentless pace of a woman who never seemed to slow down. She was aware of all of it. And like so many people who are aware of health risks, but feel too busy or too invincible to fully address them, she kept going. So what does that mean for the rest of us? That question is not rhetorical. Physicians who treat stroke patients say they are seeing a troubling shift. More cases involving people in their 40s and 50s. People who are otherwise healthy-looking, professionally successful, and completely unaware of what is building inside them. Stress, untreated hypertension, poor cholesterol management, and the stubborn belief that there will always be time to deal with it later. Sandra Lee embodied all of that, and her story makes clear what later can actually look like. In her case, later arrived on a Tuesday in a clinic full of cameras and patients, and it shut everything down immediately. Production on her television show halted. A full season paused mid-filming. The machinery of a brand that runs 24 hours a day came to a sudden stop. The woman who spent years helping other people fix their problems was, for the first time, completely powerless over what was happening to her own body. But to understand the full weight of what almost happened, you need to go back to where this story actually begins. Long before the YouTube channel, long before television, before the brand and the billions of views, there was a small clinic and a borrowed medical book. Her father immigrated from Malaysia, where he had practiced medicine in a rural setting with almost no resources. Skin diseases were common and difficult to diagnose without the right references. He had one textbook, shared and worn, and when he needed to look something up, he would step behind a curtain, flip through the pages quietly so patients would not see, and try to find the answer. That resourcefulness, that dedication to figuring it out, with whatever was available, shaped his entire career. It eventually brought him to the United States, and it shaped his daughter's outlook on medicine from an early age. She grew up watching her father work. She absorbed the ethic of showing up and solving problems. But her own path to dermatology was not straightforward, and the difficulty she encountered early on would have stopped many people completely. She did not match into dermatology on her first attempt. The specialty her father had devoted his life to, the field she had grown up around, turned her away. She had to step back and consider whether to redirect her career entirely. For someone else, that rejection might have been the end of the road. For her, it was a detour. She regrouped, refocused, and eventually found her way into the field. She completed her training, took over her father's practice, and then made one decision that no one around her could have predicted would change everything. But at the time, it was just an experiment, just a small channel with no audience and no guarantees. Could she have known what it would become? In 2010, Sandra Lee posted her first videos to YouTube. The content was straightforward, professional, educational. For a while, almost no one was watching. Then she posted a video of a blackhead extraction. Something about it, the close-up view, the satisfaction of watching it resolved, the almost hypnotic quality of the process, connected with people in a way no one expected. It spread, then it kept spreading. Viewers who had never thought about dermatology found themselves unable to look away. What had been a quiet corner of the internet became a phenomenon that drew tens of millions of subscribers and eventually billions of views. The nickname came naturally, Dr. Pimple Popper. She leaned into it, built a brand around it, and turned a single viral video into a television show on TLC that ran for multiple successful seasons. But success at that scale does not come without a price, and in her case, that price was being paid quietly in the background for years while everything on the surface continued to grow.